Good evening.
Hey there.
Sorry, I'm just writing down names.
Mine open if you want to listen to it all. I'm coming.
Somebody just joined with a telephone number of 559-871-1194. Can I get your name?
Jenny Schrock.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Tybals, it's 7 o'clock and we do have a quorum.
Yeah, just a second. I was checking to see if Khadija is,
Yes, sir.
Is,
She just signed on.
oh, she just signed on. Okay, great. Okay. And Kurt, if you don't mind, I'll have you run the agenda.
Yes, sir. That'll work. So first we'll do a roll call. Bruce Scheibels,
Present?
Cynthia Barclay,
You'll need to unmute.
Cynthia, can you hear? Yeah,
Sorry.
there you go. Lewis Kennedy,
Here.
Leslie Young,
Here.
Katja Haynes,
Hadisha, are you muted?
she's not showing up as having audio.
Oh, she's still in the process of connecting.
Ms. Haynes, can you, if you can hear us, we cannot hear you and you're not connected for audio.
Are you speaking to me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, yes, I was trying to connect. The audio was having difficulty.
Got it. Thank you very much. Just call the roll. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Scheibels, we do have a quorum, so we can call to order at 7:01 if you're okay with that.
Thank you.
Outstanding. Disclosures have been filed. Are there any additional disclosures to announce before we get started for tonight's meeting? Hearing none, we'll move forward. Next is to review and approve the agenda. You do have the agenda as part of your board packet.
Yeah, and I think there was one thing, I know that Ms. Haynes had a concern about the consent agenda. My suggestion is that we move the resolution on the posting of notices to new business. And then, but that as far as the approval of the minutes from the December 5th meeting, my suggestion is because she was not a member of the board at that time, that she simply abstained from the consideration of the minutes from the December meeting, if that's okay with her, because she wasn't a member of the board at that time.
Yes, that's appropriate. Thank you.
Okay, so then I'm assuming, Bruce, that's a motion then to approve the agenda as amended to move item 3B to new business.
Correct.
Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Lewis. I would just do it this way. Is there anyone opposed? All right, thank you very much. Next item is the consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of matters that occur in the normal course of business. There's only one item on the consent agenda tonight, and that's the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting from December 5th, 2023. Those are a part of your board, or were a part of your board packet. If there are no edits to make or any suggested changes, just need a motion and a second to approve.
This is not an amendment for the current minutes, but I would like in the future that when the board approves a payment regimen like we're going to be doing later on in the meeting, that we, rather than just simply saying a payment schedule was presented and it was approved, if we could identify the dollar amount that's being approved, that would be an improvement, I think.
And yes, sir, we do that with the checklist. And so we can add that to the minutes and reference check numbers and amounts that are approved.
Just the total is all I'm interested in. If we want the detail, we'll go to the attachments, but just so that we have some sense of order of magnitude compared to past meetings, that type of a thing.
Okay. Note taken. Thank you.
I agree with that.
So I'm looking for a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
I second.
And I'm sorry, who was that the seconded?
Leslie.
Oh, thank you, Leslie. Is there anyone opposed? Thank you very much. Next order of business is correspondence. I have no correspondence. Do any of the directors have any correspondence you want to reference in the meeting?
I have none.
I have none.
No, none here.
None here.
Okay, thanks. We'll move on then to public comment. This is the area of the meeting where the board will entertain comments from the public. It's about business or district business, please. Please keep your comments restricted to that district business, and you've got a 3-minute limit on your comments. What I would ask is if you do have a comment, just raise your hand and then I can call on you. And it looks like Kathy Schultz has raised her hand. So Ms. Schultz. The floor is yours.
Yes. My comment is, and I wish that the Ebert board would take this under consideration. I don't know if you put it in your bylaws or how it works for you operationally, but I believe that when you have people that petition for a special election, I believe that you should have those people pay for the election. That way, you're still getting the special election, but you're not having the people who don't want it pay for it. And I bring this up as in the case of the last special election. I'll use the figure that was in the budget couple of years ago, which was $40,000. So under 500 people petitioned to have a special election, but there's 9,000 people living in the Ebert district. So 8,500 didn't fall into the petition. And I just wish that there could be something that would be a little more equitable if possible, and you would consider that.
Thank you.
Next is Mr. Maury.
Thank you. I've got 2 comments. The first concerns how public comment during the meeting is taken. I would like to suggest that there be a revision in how public comment is taken during the course of the meeting. Currently, and since I've actually been living in the Ebert Metro District, public comments basically been limited to either a period of time at the beginning or at the end of the meeting. I think it'd be a lot more appropriate if there's an allowance for public comment to be made during the course of the meeting when a particular issue is being discussed for action on the part of the board. This would resemble the way that city council meetings are conducted, and it would allow for comment to be received that would be actually very pertinent to the subject at hand. The second thing would be that any non-agenda items could be taken either at the beginning or at the end of the agenda. But for those items that are being discussed during the course of the board meeting, public should be able to make some comments at the time that particular issue is being discussed. The second element that I'd like to ask as a question is, when will Ebert return to in-person meetings? That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Patty Davis.
Hi, my name is Patty Davis. I'm a resident of Fairway Villas 1, Subdistrict 1, and I was also the chair of the recall committee. So I'd like to address Ms. Schultz's comment and then expand on a little bit. First of all, Kathy, the recall election falls under Colorado CRS law 321906, and we follow specifically that law. The law has very specific financing requirements and specific requirements. It's very extensive, and we spent a lot of time looking at that. We also spent a lot of time deciding whether or not we should do this recall because there is a cost. And as a taxpayer, there's always a cost-benefit analysis. So I'd like to address 2 different things that we looked at. And the first one being, what would be the cost of the actual recall? We are not sure what the cost is. I talked to Ben Schlier. He's an attorney at the Denver elections yesterday. He said they are working on the final bill that they will submit to Ebert. When that bill comes, I urge everybody on the board to look at those costs in December, because those costs in December are going to be due to Mr. Hawthorne's refusal to resign and due to his pushing and causing a hearing. There was no choice. We had to go to a hearing, and those costs that on that hearing on December 11 include things like hundreds of copies that had to be run on Sunday evening, a hearing officer, a judge, a staff member, technicians to run the equipment, as well as police presence to protect the residents of Ebert that attended that hearing on December 11. The hearing officer, Samuel Cowles, ordered that we have police presence based on the affidavits from residents of Ebert. So what will that cost be? I don't know. But let's look at the other side. What would the cost have been had we not done this? The first area is that lawsuit. And that's really one of the big reasons that people wanted to sign the petition. And I will correct you, Ms. Schultz, as to how many people signed. We only needed 300. We had 300 within the first 10 days. We went ahead and got over 600 signatures. We stopped at that. We could have gotten many more. Okay, so the cost of the litigation. I have filed CORA requests and I have asked for what was spent. Mr. Eli, I see you on here, and I thank you very much for responding to my CORA request in great detail. Through 12/31 of 23, I believe Ebert paid $45,513 for that lawsuit, sometimes called the Gates lawsuit, the Gates and Fences lawsuit. People have a lot of names for that lawsuit. So we know that. I am still trying to decipher the TCMD costs. I believe they are about $80,000. So what is the cost if we hadn't done that? Look at the TCMD budget, $200,000 for next year or for 2024 for legal fees. The Ebert alone, that amount that I know through December represents 76% of your overall legal budget or legal amount spent last year. So what would have happened had we not done this? We would have spent another couple $100,000. And I think that's significant. The other thing that we looked at seriously with the cost benefit analysis is.
Patty, I appreciate your comments, but you've gone
Right.
over 3
Okay,
minutes.
Bruce, and I am happy to answer any of those questions for people. And if anyone has questions, please contact me directly. I'm very well versed in recall law right now.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Cleek, you're next.
I'm trying to unmute.
You are unmuted.
Okay. I was looking at the resolution about a posting location. And when I look at the what was in the board packet, it seems to be missing the
The physical location, yes, sir. That's why it's on the agenda tonight for the board to discuss.
oh, it's going to be discussed?
Yes,
I
sir.
thought you went through the consent agenda already. And
No, sir. It was removed from the
Moved it to new
consent
business,
agenda,
Cal.
went to new business.
never mind.
Okay, thank you. Any
And
other?
Al, I
Mr.
wanted to,
Chair?
I'm sorry, Khadija, just a second. I wanted to address Al's comment. Al, we have in our board policies, when we have an active motion to address on our agenda, like for example, later on tonight's thing, we have the 297,000 capital transfer agenda item. When there's an actual motion and a second, and after the board has got done discussing, we then open to the community. We've done that in the past, and there's been sometimes there's been some community. So I understand and I appreciate what you said, Al. We do allow, unlike TCMD, but we do allow further public discussion. So we do allow a little bit more public discussion throughout our meetings when there is an active decision being made or in the process of being made, when there's an active motion and second after the board has fully discussed a motion, but before the actual vote is taken. That's part of our policies.
Ms. Haynes, I saw you had your hand up earlier. Is there something you wanted to say now?
I did. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for addressing that. That was what I was going to ask for clarification. Mr. Maury also asked the question of when we will be moving to meetings in person. I also would love to have an answer for that if you are prepared to do so this evening.
And I'm not sure. We haven't actually discussed that. I actually like the from what I've been told, the in-person meetings over the years hadn't had a lot of, participation. I thought we were getting more participation with the virtual meetings, but I don't know when we might move to even a hybrid situation. We haven't even discussed that. So I guess my answer right now is I have no idea.
Well, thank you for that. And again, as a new board member, I am probably going to ask questions that you may have already covered. So I appreciate your grace and tolerance for me to ask questions that may have already been discussed.
Thank you. Any other public comment? If there is, please raise your hand. Mr. Scheibels, I see no other hands being raised, so we can move on to the next item of business, which are director's items and comments. Item 6A is one you asked to be added to the agenda, and it's discussion on the consideration of approval to transfer $297,309.93 from the capital expenditures to be approved by Ebert line of the EMD Capital Projects Bond Proceeds Series 2018 Fund to TCMD based on a request by TCMD.
Yes, and could you share your
Yes, sir.
screen and put that part up so that the folks who are on the and anybody who, as far as I know, the board packet is actually on the, I believe, and Kurt, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is on the website.
Yes, sir, it is.
And if you could go to, so this is, I want to give a little bit of background. And this is something that actually Mr. Jacobs, who at the time was the district manager for TCMD, this was back in December of 2022. He sent this package to and go through the invoices through Precision Building System, which is another name for Green Valley Ranch Landscaping. It's an Oakwood thing. You go to the spreadsheet, the summary page. So this is where we come up with the 297,309. And he sent this package to Murray, who was the treasurer at the time, and myself, who was the co-treasurer. And then you can just go to the next page, Kurt, if you could. And Murray and I looked at this, and say what you will about Murray, I thought he was great with regard to looking at Ebert finances. And we both went back to Jerry and said, where was the backup documentation that said this had been ever discussed, either with TCMD or with Ebert in the past? And we got no response for over a year and now we're in what? March of 2024. So this was first sent to us in December of 22. And at some point, I can't remember if it was an email, I think it was maybe an email. At that time, we would still have collaboration meetings, but I don't even remember it being discussed in the collaboration meeting. We asked Jerry, for example, we said, why wasn't Conservation Trust Fund monies used for these projects? Where was the documentation that this had been discussed prior to the projects being done and approved. And at some point, Jerry said, oh, he just had a discussion with Todd Krieger, the former EMD board president, and Todd had okayed it. And so they went ahead and did all these projects. And I said, okay, where are the minutes, either in an Ebert meeting or a TCMD meeting, that reflected these conversations? And we kept asking Jerry for all of this stuff. And it was crickets. We didn't get any information. Now I know Brittany is on the meeting tonight, and maybe Brittany should chime in. Maybe she has some information. The long and the short of it is, this is not how business is going to be done going forward. And that's one of the things that I'm going. And the more I'm looking at these projects, some of it looks like it was deferred maintenance. Some of it looks like it was part of the genesis of the lawsuit. The lawsuit was not just gates. I want to disabuse everybody of that now. The lawsuit was unanimously voted on by the board to proceed, and it was not just gates. It was the overall condition of the Ebert open spaces and the landscaping, the lack of oversight and the lack of maintenance and the lack of, the condition. You look at some of these before pictures, and the long and short of it is, I'm making a motion that we approve this $297,000 transfer from the $297,000 plus transfer from our Ebert capital to TCMD, based on this documentation, with the understanding that going forward, we're going to have a process in place that involves a proposal coming to Ebert, hopefully through the new collaboration process that's being put in place as a result of the lawsuit, and that we will have a proposal. Stuff will go out to bids, because this obviously wasn't bid, and that we will approve the process going forward. There'll be an approval process, and then once the projects are done, we will then approve the transfer of funds, and it will all be documented at the very least in the Ebert side. And so I'm making a motion that we approve this. And I hope somebody on the board will second it, and then we can have a further discussion. And then Brittany maybe can chime in with her understanding of this whole process. And then the board we can have a discussion, and then we can have some further public comment.
Is there a second from the board?
I'll second that.
Thank you, sir. So it's been moved and seconded. Now it's open for discussion.
I would like to echo Bruce's comment that this is no way to conduct business, that a verbal approval by one individual is not how capital and or maintenance is to be done in a metropolitan district like ours. And in terms of a process going forward, I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel. I think at this point, if there is a project in the works, we should be alerted to it by Town Center, and the estimates ahead of time, and then the decision as to who they're going with, and then the approval will happen. So just so the public's aware, that is what we would be doing going forward.
Ms. Haynes?
Thank you. What concerned me the most when I saw this in the packet is that the before and after pictures do not match except in one instance. So to me, there is no verification that the work was done. So for that reason, I cannot support making this transfer at this time. I would like for them to provide appropriate after pictures. We have the before pictures. And so I would like to see the after pictures so that we can at least verify and then send something in writing to them that will iterate very clearly how we will proceed going forward.
That's actually a good point. Khadijah, the finance committee, when they were meeting last night, that was pointed out that these pictures only in maybe one or two instances actually seem to be apples to apples. And maybe Brittany should chime in here with, with what her knowledge is. She's sort of behind the eight ball because she's only recently been appointed as the town center's, ongoing day-to-day, district manager. But maybe she can help us with this, verification. My understanding, for example, someone brought up the issue of, this work was all done back in 2021. That's almost 3 years ago now. I don't know how they're going to verify that the work was done, but that's a very good point.
Ms. Barclay.
Yes, I have something I'd like to read, but first I'd like to make a statement about Todd Krieger as president, who thinks that letter is a unilateral decision, which you're not allowed to do as a board member. You have to have in the meetings minutes that you have discussed this. Another point is TCMD has always had to send information to the Ebert board about their projects. We have not received any letters or notifications since I've been on the board in 2020. And we did not get anything handed to us from Sandy Hittman when she left. So I just like to read this. It'll just take a few minutes, but I have some questions and maybe you can answer them. I'm against this from the get-go. Why is TCMD asking Ebert to pay for repairs to those pocket parks from Ebert's Capital Projects Bond Fund when TCMD has $555,000 in its own capital repair and replacement fund, a fund specifically intended for repair and replacement of existing assets? Those pocket parks are not Ebert's assets. They are town's assets. Ebert's owns no assets. That fact is indisputably stated in the 2018 IGA until such time as the transfer of assets from town to Ebert occurs. Do you not see what town through Jerry is trying to do? They want to tap that $750,000 that's in the Ebert's Capital Bond Fund. That fund is for new assets, not existing assets. Town kept the $2.9 million that everyone was concerned about to complete their Tower Farms project. You should ask Charlie Foster how much Gateway Regional contributed to that project. After all, that project sits squarely within the Gateway Regional Metro District 2. Charlie Foster is their district's treasurer. Ask him how much his district has contributed to the project. Rest assured, he'll be taxing and receiving tax revenue from that project. Or is that just another arbitrage opportunity like the $2.9 million that is conveniently escaping everyone's notice? Ebert's Capital Project Bond Fund was established for new district facilities, not for the upkeep of town's existing facilities. Have any of you read the terms of the 2018 IGA? Bruce, you know that we've asked towns several times to identify exactly what facilities remain to be built in Ebert, and their answer was none. Only Tower Farms remains, and they gave us a written summary at one of our collaboration meetings illustrating how the $2.9 million funded that project. The board should instead either motion to apply the balance of the bond fund, $750,000, to pay forward to the debt service and reduce everyone's property taxes once again, or motion to transfer the balance to Ebert's CRRF to build the reserve. Rest assured, town hasn't planned for the necessary reserves Ebert's going to need come transition time. Or just raise everyone's taxes. Thank you.
Ms. Young and Ms. Haynes, Ms. Young, I know you wanted to say something. You all, since you're board members, you don't need to raise your hands. You can speak anytime.
Okay, well, I just put it in the meeting chat, and I concur with Kadisha, and in all good conscience cannot vote in the affirmative of such an arbitrary resolution with lack of backup. The pictures are not like for like. I can't identify what was before and what actually got fixed. And Ebert's not here to cover for Jerry's managerial administrative shortcomings.
Any other comments from the board?
I don't want to create a rift between organizations that we need to work with. So that's why I said, and I'll restate that I am not supportive of the payment at this time. I would like to see the improvements in apples to apples, and I am perfectly willing to have this be reconsidered again. But at this moment, I don't have what I need to vote on it.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board?
This is Louis Kennedy. Having heard the comments of my fellow board members, I too am questioning whether this is the appropriate time. I think more substantial backup, as in after pictures that align with the before pictures, and any other support that we could get in terms of this project. So I might be in favor of following a not acceptable vote.
And I understand. I would like it. Brittany, do you have any more information that could help us out with some of the questions that have been raised, including what Cynthia was talking about?
Can you guys hear me? I just want to make sure that my mic is working.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, sometimes it doesn't work, so I just want to make sure that it is.
No, you're good.
I don't have more information than what you had said, Bruce. As you said, I'm new to this. I do remember these projects happening, but I was never part of the conversations. I know the before photos were taken by the landscapers, the after photos were taken by me. And so if I took horrible pictures afterwards that weren't the same as the before, I apologize, and I can most definitely wait for all the landscaping to come back in this season and then go out and get photos. I think technically the after photos show a better version since the landscapers took the before pictures, but they are the same areas, and I would be happy to do a tour with anyone who wants to go see the different landscape beds and kind of talk you through what they used to look like versus what they do now. And it's been a massive improvement to the district. And it's just, you know, it's unfortunate that maybe these photos don't show you that, but I don't have more information than that for you.
Brittany, this is Louis Kennedy again.
Yes, sir.
Just looking at the screen that's up right now, going forward or in your current responsibilities, are these typical details of invoices? Because the things that I questioned is they identified the cost per item in terms of the work that was done. It doesn't identify the labor or if there's materials, and that's a common breakout that I'm accustomed to. And then the cost is usually compared to the bid. In other words, if they actually bid on this work, we need to know if they're over or under on their bid. Is that something you're familiar with?
It is definitely something that has been implemented. So now going forward, that is all being done appropriately. And when it is bid out with multiple different contractors, we would show all of those different prices for sure.
Okay. And one last thing I'd like to clarify is the vendor in question here is no longer in existence. And in fact, that vendor was paid by Town Center Metro District. And the current conversation is that Town Center is asking to be reimbursed for the expenditure that it made.
That is what I understand. Yes.
Okay.
Any other comments from the board?
Brittany, do you know anything about about these being town assets versus being Ebert assets, as Ms. Barkley was talking about?
From what I understand is Town Center Metro District does all the operations and maintenance of all the common area landscaping, right? And since residents don't live within the common area landscaping, I would assume that it is Town Center and not Ebert, since Ebert is simply where residents reside, right? And although these parks and landscaping intersections are where residents reside, it is Town Center's responsibility to maintain and operate those locations.
So what she was saying is that the fund that we're being asked to reimburse the 297,000 from is supposed to be used for new construction and not for new capital projects and not for maintenance and repair. And that's what her concern is with this request. And so that's part of it is, and I know we're putting you in an awkward situation because Murray and I had been asking Jerry for, more information about these projects from when he first sent this information to us back in December of 2022, and he never got back to us with any backup information.
Okay.
And that's one of those things where we're sort of at a loss as to, why are these funds being requested to pay for these projects when they could have been coming from Town Center's capital repair and replacement funds, from its budgetary funds and not from Ebert's, capital bond funds. That's that's the point I think that Cynthia was making.
Understood. I do not have an answer for you. I wish I did. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I know that these areas were in dire need of repair and update, and they were specifically areas that people in the community complained about often. Some of them were even blocking the view at the intersection, so you couldn't see around the corners. So there was work that had to be done for safety purposes, but also just because it had been so overrun. It just looked so horrible. And a lot of it, this is a great photo, is these juniper bushes. This is a trimmed juniper bush, but just imagine like 2 months later how large this would be and how sprawling, and it's up against the fencing, and it really just, these junipers just like destroy the property throughout the district. And so putting in these landscape beds brought value to the community, but also cleaned up areas that were really detrimental to the community overall.
Okay.
And Bruce, if I may, I know that you said that you would like to see this process implemented in the future, and I fully agree with you. I would love to make sure that there's a process in place and it's followed moving forward. And so I will work with you as much as you'd like to create that process and have it be what we do moving forward.
Thank you.
No problem.
Brittany, this is Leslie, and I would love to take you up on your offer to tour these sites. I mean,
Okay.
I need to feel comfortable spending our money, you know. I feel responsible for it. So yeah, I would love to get together with you and take a drive through.
Great, let's do it. Can
Okay.
you give me your phone number real quick and I'll give you a call tomorrow and set it up.
Yeah, 303 905 1711.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure, thank you.
Well, we have an active motion on the floor. Is there anyone in the public who wants to make a public comment that's not already been put in the chat? Because our chat will be part of our minutes.
I see no hands raised, sir.
Okay.
I don't know how to raise my hand.
And who's this, please?
This is George.
Go ahead, sir.
I suggest, because of the way this conversation is going, that this motion be tabled.
I was just gonna suggest that myself, so.
And it really, you can just vote on the motion. It doesn't sound like it's going to pass anyway.
Right.
It's up to you. Is there any other discussion or any other comment from the public? Any other discussion from the board?
Just one strategically on this. If we vote on it and let it fail, then it doesn't have to stay tabled and then become part of the future until we can get resolution with Town Center as to whether we can get satisfaction on it. So I'd like to at least see that we go to a vote and move forward.
Yes, sir, you're correct.
Meaning if we vote no, then they'll have to bring it all up again.
Right. But if we table it, it stays active on the agenda until we resolve it. So
As
this way,
old, as old business.
Yes, sir.
right. And so this way, it'll die its own death today, and then it'll get resurrected if Town Center wants to push for it. Once they supply the answers we need, and it doesn't have to happen before the next meeting if they haven't got the stuff together yet.
Okay. All right.
Any other comments from the board? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay.
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 Sounds like it's unanimous. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank my board members. We don't get an opportunity to the public. I'd like to say this. We don't get to meet as a board and have time to chat because it's considered a board meeting when more than three of us or more of us get together. So this is the first opportunity we get to hear from each other is in the board meetings. So I appreciate the consideration from the other board members.
Mr.
Okay,
Chair, I would, if I may, it is not to the motion, but related to the last vote. There was a comment in the chat about ensuring that the comment that Cynthia read be put in totality and into the minutes, and I would like to support that and hope that that will be put in as part of the official record.
Yes, ma'am. I saw that as well, and I'll get with Ms. Barclay to get her comments, and we'll include it in the minute.
Thank you so much for that.
I agree. Thank you.
Next item is discussion and consideration to approve participation of no more than 2 Hebert Metropolitan District board members with the Joint Landscape Committee as part of ongoing effort to resolve the litigation.
This is another item that I wanted added to the director's items. As part of the efforts to resolve the litigation, first, until Murray was recalled, he was part of the litigation committee, and then after he was recalled, Lewis has stepped in with me, and as part of putting the as part of working with 2 members of the Town Center Board, Bill Schmidt and Joe, I'm going to butcher his last name, Joe K. We've worked out some things, and we've been working with the Joint Landscape Committee because part of the resolution is identifying areas in the district where landscaping needs to be worked on and trees and deciding how best to approach the issue of trees that aren't being have been dying, and figuring out ways to, if we're going to replace trees, not replacing them until we know that we can replace them and they'll survive, because it's been clear over a number of years that that hasn't been happening correctly. Anyway, we have a resolution that we had stopped participation. And I will tell you that Lewis and I, and then more recently, I think Ms. Haynes and Lewis have participated in some of the Joint Landscape Committee meetings. And so I would like to move that no more than 2 Hebert board members going forward, participate with the Joint Landscape Committee. It means that we won't be appointing members, but that two of our board members will be participating with the Joint Landscape Committee as we go forward and identifying areas. They're going to be working with the vendors. They'll be working with the TCMD district manager, Brittany, as they work with the vendor and putting out bids for new projects as part of the resolution of the litigation. And so that's my motion, is that we authorize the participation of up to 2 board members, and it doesn't have to be the same. That's why I didn't put a name. It can be any 2 of the board members. It can be a rotating, and we'll going forward at our board meetings, we'll have updates as to how that process is proceeding. So that would be my motion, is that authorizing up to 2 board members to participate with the in the Joint Landscape Committee going forward.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, I have a comment. Where is this going to be any different from when we had the landscaping committee? Bruce, we have all those documents. We have all the Google Docs. These are all the things we've already done. That is why when nothing took place, we ended our involvement. Where is it going to change and how is it going to change? All that you've talked about has already been documented, has already been pictured, has already been kept in notes for every week that we had the landscape committee with Jerry involved. Where is there changes other than wildflowers were approved and a few other things, but nothing in Jerry's jurisdiction? We walked with him, we talked with him, we did many, many things. So how much more time are you going to spend on this to get it corrected right when we've already done it all? Why is town making you do this? They should be able to report back to you that it was completed, or this is their list of what they see needs to be done. And I have one question for Brittany. I'm so sorry. So those junipers that are all in those rocks, do you have watering in there? Are there sprinkler systems in there, or are they just gonna take up nature's moisture?
So
It doesn't do any good to plant if you have no way to water.
there's irrigation installed. There's drip lines to all the plant material.
Okay.
Oh, Cynthia, the idea of having participation with the landscape committee is to work with cooperatively with the landscape committee, and there are also 2 members of the TCMD board that are regularly meeting with the landscape committee, and it's as part of the process to identify areas that are going forward over the next couple of years to get the district up to snuff. And you're right, Jerry is still, that's the only part of that he's still involved with, but we, by us being involved, board members being involved is part of the whole collaboration process. And it's part of the MOU that we have been working on to as part of the settlement of the litigation. And it's just, in my mind, it helps put us in a position where we are part of the process of resolving everything and putting the district back in shape. And I think it's better to have us involved rather than reporting to us, because part of the problem was in the past, they would say they had done the work, but as we know, it wasn't done. And so that's why I think this is a good idea. I think it's a good idea that we be involved, and we're not doing it by appointing members. We're just going to have, the board members be part of the process and not appointing, Ebert residents to the committee.
So
We'll
this
be
is going to be
working
a
with the
whole,
existing committee members.
okay, so sorry. This is gonna be a whole new way of doing the committee other than when it was originally developed. And we
Correct.
appointed and we did, and you have whose word that they're gonna help you fix and do what they should have done 5 years ago? Who's that gonna be? You're gonna bring the 2 Ebert members with town, and then what's gonna happen? How's it gonna be processed differently than when we had the joint landscape committee that we worked with Jerry? How is it gonna be run differently so it gets taken care of for one last time so the residents can have a nice place to live and not have to continually fight to get a tree planted and watered so it lives? I've been with the forestry, I worked with Denver, I walked this place. You don't even have, the things aren't even planted, so to redevelop into a different way, I can only see that happening. And where are the type of trees you're gonna plant? One of the biggest complaints here is, why is there dead trees? There's not even any drip lines in the garden part. And they planted those trees in 105-degree weather, which I reported to Jerry. Well, I can't help it what my landscapers do. Why isn't that part of a contract?
That's
I don't
part of the
see it getting
process. That's
resolved
part
in
of the
any way.
process that's gonna be going forward. It's part of the
Okay, so
process.
you have
that's
a
gonna-
written process down, right? Besides the MOU.
It's part of the process that's gonna
Detail.
be going forward. That's
Okay.
one of the reasons to have board members part of the landscape committee going forward.
We had that.
It-
We didn't go anywhere. I don't see.
If I may,
Ma'am, this isn't public comment right now. Is
No,
it,
that's
Leslie?
this is Khadijah.
Oh, I'm
speaking.
sorry.
All right. If I may, I would really like to see a process in writing for this committee. And I would also like to see a timeline. I have lots of friends who live in all parts of this community, and I drive around. So if I have a timeline and I know that they are supposed to be working in this area on these days, it's very simple for me to see that there are workers doing work in that area. I'm also fine with actually appointing board members. Because a person is appointed to a committee does not prevent anyone else from attending. It just does not put them in position to vote should something come up in the committee. So I think it can be a yes and. I think it's fine to, if you and Louis want to be the representatives, I support that. That will not necessarily stop me nor encourage me from attending a meeting if I am available at that time and if what is being discussed at that moment is of interest, or if someone asks me to attend, a resident wants some information. So I think you can make it much more concrete, and I think that there are a lot of the processes that need to be more concrete so that we don't have a repeat of the issue that we just voted down. That we do have a paper trail that is really clear, and this is what stops litigation. The litigation comes when there is a communication gap and everybody believes that they're right. And when it's in writing, then it becomes very clear who actually has the ground to stand on.
I think
this-
that's great, Khadijah. Perhaps we should put it in the form of a committee charter and have it contained within the minutes.
And I'm happy to have the committee monitor itself and send that back to the board to affirm that this is the work that the committee is going to do. And I only speak of this because I sit on many boards and this is how they work. I am totally open to having this board and knitting myself into the fabric of this board in a way that makes sense. But I am just making some suggestions from my experience in boards and committee work.
If I could, and I'll ask for Evan's confirmation on this. If you were to happen to drop in, Khadijah, on one of the meetings, then that automatically becomes an Ebert Metro District board meeting because there's only 5 of us. And when 3 of us are together, it's a board meeting. So having 2 is a strategic move, I think, in Bruce's part. Is that right, Evan?
Well, yes, the technical reading of the statute is that anytime more than 2 board members are in the same meeting discussing district business, it's an illegal, unnoticed meeting. So it seems unduly, it seems unreasonable, I understand, but that is the statutory
That's
requirement.
fine.
So, yeah,
I can understand that. That's fine then.
yeah. I mean, Khadija, some of the boards you're on probably are not governmental governing boards, so they don't have to follow the same rule, but city council.
All governing boards, all nonprofit boards, every board in the state follows the same laws. It does not matter whether it's a governmental board or not. They are all ruled by the same laws.
There are different statutes governing the different boards, but that's okay. That's the reason why Bruce is suggesting that 2 board members, it can revolve, it can change from meeting to meeting.
And frankly, because I'm working full-time these days, I will rarely be able to attend a landscape committee meeting anyway. So that's why I'm hoping
But that's
that
fine.
other folks will be able to anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
Any other comments from the board members? If not, Bruce, there is, Miss Bell would like to make a comment.
That's fine. Gail?
Yes, thank you. Listening to this conversation, I feel like we have engaged in this similar conversation for 10 years now that I've lived here, regarding Jerry Jacobs. And I know that Kel and I were on the landscape committee for a number of years. And it's frustrating to me that we continue to have this conversation about Jerry Jacobs. He's a nice guy. But we have talked a million times about incompetence in his company. And I don't understand why we continue to spend the money of the taxpayers, many of us are on here now, when there are so many other companies that could be hired that and give them an opportunity to improve the job that we haven't been seeing for nearly a decade here now. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? There is a motion then to authorize up to 2 directors to participate in the Joint Landscape Committee. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, so it's 4 in favor, 1 opposed. Thank you very much. Next item, first item of unfinished business is to discuss the recall election results and the election of Director Haynes.
As you folks all know, the recall election results resulted in Director Hawthorne being removed from the board. I actually have the final results. I was on the canvassing committee. The final results were total votes cast were 1,035 out of I guess 8,845 eligible electors. 843 votes voted to recall, 189 voted not to recall, and then 809 votes to voted to have Ms. Haynes replace Mr. Hawthorne as a member, and she'll serve out the remainder of his term. And then we'll stand for election again in 2025. And so I welcome, we didn't begin the meeting by welcoming her, but I welcome Ms. Haynes as a member of the board to serve out the term through May of 2025. That's all the report I have for the thing. We, as Ms. Davis said earlier, we don't have the bill yet from for the election. I know we have the audit coming up. We didn't use some of the bill for the election. We'll probably end up having to have an amendment to our 2023 budget because some of the expenses for the audit for the recall were incurred in fiscal year 2025. That was the protest or the hearing that was conducted on December 11th. And then the rest of the expenses were the actual recall election, which took place in fiscal year 2024. But I talked to Ben Schlier today, and they don't have the bills, partly because they're also ran a primary election as well, so they don't have we haven't received any bills yet. So that's all. That's the only information I have regarding the election results. But we welcome Ms. Haynes to the board.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next item then is update on litigation status with the Town Center Metropolitan District.
We have a couple of other items on the agenda later tonight regarding the update on litigation status, but I want to let the folks know that we had Murray and I were the litigation committee until he was recalled. And we were working with Bill and Joe Kay, who were the representatives from Town Center, informally working on a memorandum of understanding. It's not finalized yet, but we're in a position to discuss some of the points. One of the big points is Town Center is making significant changes in the way it manages its district operations. One of the big points is that Jerry Jacobs is no longer the designated Timberline district manager. Brittany Barnett, you've heard from Brittany earlier tonight during our meeting. They're going to have monthly staff meetings in which they're going to invite 1 or 2 members of the Ebert board to participate in those meetings. Sometimes a member of Westwind will be part of that. They're going to do Bill Schmidt will continue to participate in the Ebert Finance Operations Committee meetings to continue with the collaboration. And they will do, and Town Center's district manager is going to do a much better job of weekly inspections of landscape contractors and do a better job of oversight of landscape vendors. The landscape committee, including the Ebert representatives and TCMD representatives, are going to compile a comprehensive and detailed list of landscape priorities, areas, and trees, and develop an RFP for bids and set priorities and a timing plan. The TCMD, I think, has either completed or is close to completing a complete survey of damage to the golf course fencing. We're talking about the black wrought iron fencing that encircles most of the golf course, separates most of the golf course. Some of it borders the Highline Canal Trail, and some of it borders First Creek Trail. Some of it just borders, like over on the 2nd, 4th, 5th, 8th, 9th fairways, just borders, and the 6th and 7th fairways just borders the cart pass. Is putting together an estimate for painting and repairing broken areas of the fence. And that work will be put out to bid, and Ebert will be involved in reviewing those repair plans. Nothing's resolved yet, but there is work on areas where Ebert residents have done some landscaping on town center properties, on town center properties on the, I guess, Gulf Shore side of the fences. We're going to be requesting a stay in the court of the litigation so that we can transfer. We haven't come up with a total number, but we're hoping at least 200,000 of the legal funds from both Ebert and Town Center's legal budget, maybe up to 250,000 from Town Center funds and Ebert funds that it's currently budgeted for legal can be transferred to landscape maintenance to go in conjunction with the existing, I think, 100,000 to go toward some of these landscape plans. We also are going to be, and that's one of the things that's on our agenda tonight, increasing the maximum service amount, defined maximum service amount from 16.9 million to 19.5 million, so that for fiscal year 2025, the operational fund, and it doesn't involve any tax increase, it just fully funds the ability for Town Center to do the operational work that it's been doing since 2018 under the 2018 IGA through the entirety of 2025 to get us through the entire transition process, which will be also get us through all of the landscape improvements and tree improvements. And then as far as tree issues, we're going to come up with, finish the tree inventory. We're going to have Denver's in the middle of doing a complete tree inventory in the right of ways, and we're going to use their work. Al is going to help me with this update. He's got a little bit of a update as far as what the landscape committee has been doing and is looking at. And then landscape issues, we're going to look at the existing site plans. Some of the landscape issues will be changing some of the what I've been calling pocket gardens to removing them and reverting them to native grasses. That will cut down on some of the cost of irrigation and maintenance costs, which could save taxpayers some monies. So anyway, that's sort of a broad brush of points of the memorandum that's going into some of the settlement. So we're close to resolving the litigation and moving monies, and we're doing a stay instead of just dismissing without prejudice, because with the stay we can keep oversight of the work that we want that Ebert wants TCMD to do to get the landscaping and the tree process and the fencing up to snuff without having to expend monies on refiling the lawsuit and basically replowing everything and spending all the money on litigation that's been spent already, because that's what would happen if we just dismissed without prejudice. So Al, can you put your 2 cents in that you were going to do tonight?
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. It may end up being just a penny's worth.
Okay.
Because you've covered a few things that I had intended to say. There are a couple points that I would like to make, though. The first is, as a longtime member of the Landscape Committee, I'm really delighted to see a reversal of what I personally feel was an ill-advised withdrawal of Ebert from the Landscape Committee. I think what I'm seeing is that we now have a commitment from the Town Center Board to place members on the Landscape Committee, and also with the realignment of how the district management is going to be handled, that we're going to have a lot more forceful oversight and ability to make sure that we've got some accountability with the work that's being done. So I've got some expectations that there will be some significant differences going forward compared to what's taken place in the past. Bruce touched on this, that with input from the Landscape Committee, new proposals for landscape maintenance are in the works, with some significant changes to scope of work to be considered. Once the proposals are received and the litigation expenditures are suspended, we'll have a better idea of the total amount of budget money available to make some decisions on the scope of work for the upcoming season. That, as I mentioned earlier, coupled with some district management changes, should allow for us to see some significant improvements in the day-to-day maintenance work that's taking place. Members of the Landscape Committee have been meeting with the golf course personnel and some town center water consultants to examine irrigation issues and how those issues are impacting the tree health in the common areas. We're in the process of gathering a lot of information. We've asked a lot of questions. Once we conclude that effort of getting those questions answered, then we're going to be in a position to talk about the kind of recommendations for when and how to move forward with tree replacements. We're also gathering a lot of information on tree varieties that are more conducive to being planted in our area. And one of the concerns that we have is the quality of the water that's being used in irrigating the common areas. And we're looking at processes whereby we might be able to change significantly the sources of the water that's being used. The other thing that's happened is that the golf course and town center have finally agreed upon a map that defines the native grass areas around the golf course that each entity is responsible for maintaining. We're underway with some efforts now to further define the seasonal scope of work related to those areas. But I think this is a really important thing because it's something that's just been floating in the ether and now it's coming down to earth. So we've got, the Landscape Committee has a lot of things happening. We think that in the next month or two, we're going to have a lot of answers to questions we've asked and be in good position to make some strong recommendations for how to move forward and make the kinds of improvements that I think everybody would like to see. So that's what I have to say. Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you.
I have a question. This is Leslie. With regard to the resolution we have governing the existing and resident installed gates, do we have a map or something that identifies those gates that have been grandfathered as opposed to new people coming in wanting to add a gate? Just trying to.
I don't know that, I don't know if Town Center has a map with the gates. They just listed a document that had the 46 gates that were grandfathered.
Okay, so as long as we can identify what's been grandfathered and what might occur going on in the future. So
Yeah,
we know where we all
they
stand.
don't, I don't know if Westwood has received any applications for any new gates since that resolution was passed.
Okay. But I just want to make sure that Ebert has a copy of what's transpired and what's grandfathered and what's what going forward.
I'll make sure that we get that. Yes.
Thank you, Bruce.
So
At some point, this seems to be a hot topic. I'm choosing my words carefully. So at some point, I would like to have more conversation with folks on the board so that I better understand what I'm calling Ebert Gate.
Mr. Shakels, there's no motion needed here for this. It's just the update. My question to you is, since there's a vacancy on the litigation committee, does the board need to take any action to fill that vacancy?
I thought we were gonna do that after the executive session, but I guess we could do that now.
It's your call, sir.
I would move that we add, well, I can do it now. I haven't asked, but I would move that we add Lewis as to a member of the litigation committee to join me.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I'll agree to that.
Hearing no discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Lewis.
Maybe so.
All right, so next item then is to conduct an election or appointment of officers. So there is a vacancy there for the position of treasurer. And so it's the board's option right now to elect or appoint somebody to fill that position.
I would like to move for Lewis to become the new treasurer of Ebert.
I second that.
I will second.
I'm just writing.
And we should hurry up and vote before he changes his mind.
I guess there's no discussion. So all in favor of appointing Lewis to the litigation committee, please say aye.
No, this is
no.
treasurer.
Aye.
No, treasurer.
Oh, I'm sorry, treasurer. I'm
That's
looking at my notes. Sorry, Lewis, treasurer.
That's okay. You're going to keep me very busy. I can see that.
Is there anybody opposed? All right, thank you very much. Congratulations.
And
again.
I said, I meant to say aye. I didn't say
Okay.
aye when you said.
I got you. Okay,
Thank you all very much for your confidence.
perfect. I will share my screen again. And so the next item of business is we move this to new business. And this is the proposed resolution designating a location to post notice. The official location to post notices for the district is the district website. However, we must identify a physical location should the internet not be available. Just looking for some direction from the board as to where that physical location would be. And by the way, this is a requirement by the state, is that each metropolitan district identify this posting location annually.
You're not even there yet. They do.
And I'm not sure that have we where have we done it before? I don't remember this posting resolution before. Evan, do you know if we've done it somewhere before?
Well, I
Or Cynthia?
think with Bruce, with Kurt, we've been doing this annual administrative resolution, which it should say what location you are currently using.
Yes, sir, it should, but it's not included in the annual administrative resolution. So what I would propose is, should you choose to adopt this tonight, is we'll make sure that it's in the AAR starting in 2025.
I mean, you could use a location like, a central kiosk place. If there's anything like that, it could be the clubhouse at the golf
Cal
course.
said that in the past, the Ebert notifications were posted inside the rec center.
That's right.
Could
That's
be in the
right.
rec center. Yes, that could work too.
There is
Yeah,
a-
as long-
there-
sorry, go
there
ahead,
is
Khadija.
there's actually a little box with a glass over it that they can open up, and they got pinned inside of there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a kiosk, as Evan kind of mentioned. That's where it was done.
Now, is that inside the building, or can you see it from the outside when the building is
No, it's
closed?
inside the building, but it's accessible to the public. The clubhouse in Fairway Villas is not accessible to everybody in the public, so that's not a good place.
Yep.
And, so anyway,
So-
that's what it was in the past.
I think the rec centers will continue to have reduced hours. In fact, I'm pretty, they're going to continue to have reduced hours for quite a period of time. So I think the rec center is fine. I wonder, to speak heresy, if this isn't an opportunity for Ebert to get some feedback from the residents. Where is it that they are at frequently? There are a lot of people who use the King Supers, and there is a place to post at the King Supers. And I know not everybody shops there, but there are more folks that go there than go to the rec center. I know that for sure. So, but I wonder, is this a quick survey that we can ask West Wind to put out and to give us some suggestions?
Is the King Supers within the district's boundaries?
It
Yes.
is indeed.
I believe technically it is, yes.
It's in the southwest corner of the district.
And also the library. I don't know if they have a public bulletin board.
The library also is facing reduced hours, and they do have a public board, but it is behind closed doors when they are not open. And to take it a step further, I would like to see it not be an alternative. I would like to see it be an also, that we post electronically and physically every meeting. It's not that hard. Any one of the board members could print the notice at home, or we pay for to be served. We can have any one of our contractors take on that responsibility of posting it physically in the district.
Is there a consensus on where you'd like to post that, or would you like to defer action on this resolution?
When does it have to be turned in to the state? What's our deadline?
It's supposed to be the first meeting of the year or in the annual administrative resolution. This is your first meeting of the year.
Yeah.
Right. So
I guess
we can move it. So why don't we say for now that it will be posted, that we will ask Kroger if the manager will allow us to post there. They've never said no to any of the things that I've ever asked to be posted there. And they certainly were not of the magnitude of having people's representatives available to them. So I would suggest, I'm not making a motion, I am suggesting that we reach out to the management there and fix the notice so that, fix the resolution so that it says that the meeting shall be posted on the website and shall be posted at a physical address, not as a backup. But in point 1 of the resolution, and for right now, we will try for that to be the King Supers. We can move the location if necessary. Again, that's not a motion, it's a comment and a suggestion.
Ideally, it would be good if the board could select a location tonight. It could be changed later, but is there a central mailbox location or something like that where it could be taped up to the back of the box or somewhere that's a kind of in a central location?
No, there isn't.
Not in our district. So my only concern about the King Supers is I don't know where in the King Supers is sort of the public posting location.
It is right where the carts are kept. So very few people go in and don't get a cart, but most people would be able to see it there.
Okay, so when you go in, is it on the right or the left?
It is immediately on the left, and it's a cork
Okay.
board that's immediately on the left there.
Okay.
So this is Kurt. My question is, at the clubhouse, isn't there a window next to the door? And could not the notice be taped inside that window so it doesn't need to be on the bulletin board? There's only 4 meetings per year.
That's not convenient to most of the residents in Ebert. That's convenient to a very small population.
Okay.
I'm looking at the chat, and Victor Slavanic, he makes a point. Should it be only public property where it's posted as opposed to private property? I'd thought about that, but he brought it up in the chat, so I thought I'd add that.
Well, ideally, if maybe the landscape committee could do this, but if you actually created a post with a little box with a glass front that was with a roof, a little roof on it, that could become your central notice boards somewhere in the community. I mean, that would be the ideal situation on public common property.
Yeah, we have that
Absolutely.
on 54th Avenue, right next to my house between the Sergeants and our house. There's the mailbox section, and then behind the mailbox is a protected window covered place to put notices. Now, I know it's on our property, but it's just right on the entrance of 54th. Somebody wouldn't have to go that far into our neighborhood to see it.
Well, yeah, see, that's.
It's on 54th and Tower, so you can see it driving by on Tower.
No, it would be, you turn into 54th, you go east on 54th from Dunkirk. And it's that first section on the right of the post office box banks. And it's
Dunkirk is pretty far in.
Is it?
I mean, yeah, Dunkirk is pretty far in.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's one of those in Fairway Village too, as well on Jabel, but it's those
Yeah.
are, and those that, I mean, when I was on the CAC, I had a key to that.
You
that
don't want to
thing.
use those boxes for the district purposes.
No.
The
Yeah.
neighborhood is too small. Nobody other than Fairway Village people ever see it.
May
So
I
I
make a
don't think there's a
recommendation and we just,
provision that prevents it from being on private property.
No.
We are posting on our website, we are just adding a consistent place that people can look at it.
Is there a fire station?
Yeah, there's a fire
There is,
station
but
at the corner.
but
of-
nobody really goes there, and it's also very far in. It's on Himalaya.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the southern border.
Well, whatever we decide, we should post it along with that notice that people can access on the internet. So they know, just from previous observation, that there is an option in case they can't access via the internet, that they can go someplace.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean,
Agreed.
the way the law evolved, it used to be a requirement that you had a physical posting location in the district before we had internet and all of this stuff. And then the law has changed in recent years to say, oh, really, most people look online. So that made putting it on your website the primary posting location. But it is good, because not everybody is online, to have a physical posting location somewhere in the district. So I don't know. It would be good if you could just designate one tonight, but maybe because it's
I would like to suggest the King Supers, if I may, and then we can. I would really would encourage us as time goes by to follow up on the suggestion to make a kiosk somewhere.
Yeah.
That is a place that we can post our public notices. But for right now, I would suggest the King Supers.
is that a motion?
I can't make a motion inside a motion because we are in a motion and we're in discussion in a motion. So
No,
we'd
ma'am.
have to finish that.
No, ma'am.
However, I can suggest to amend the motion on the floor if I am correct.
No, ma'am, there is no
I
motion.
We don't have, yeah, we didn't.
We just introduced the resolution. There's been no motion made.
Okay, great. Then I would move for us to pass the resolution with an amended statement in subsection 1, identifying the King Supers as a physical location for the posting of notices.
It's actually subsection 2, but yes.
Is it? No, it's in subsection 2. It's in the event of an emergency. I'm suggesting that it is primary. And that was my argument, shall be posted. So it is in subsection 1 that I am making the motion with the amendment.
Khadijah, the posting will happen every time. There will be on the internet and at the location.
Right, that's why I'm suggesting it in number 1, not in number 2, because number 2 is in the event of an emergency.
No. That means if people can't get to the internet, they can find it at the King Supers. It doesn't, I think those are canned words, aren't they, Evan? Number 2?
Yeah, I mean, this is coming off of, yeah, I mean, it's fine. It does say that if you can't get online, it will be at the other location. So it's not saying only if you have an outage, you put it up there. It means you put it up there every time.
We'll
So
put
the
it up
motion is,
there.
sorry, Bruce.
I wanted to just say on the number 2, we'll just put it on the number 2 at the King Supers on Green Valley Ranch Boulevard.
Yeah.
Ms. Haynes, it's your motion. Are you okay with
So
that?
then you would ask me to rescind the motion, or you would ask for a second and decline it, because the motion is on the floor in need of a second. If you want to amend the motion, then I have to retract the motion, or you have to ask for a second and don't get it.
The motion
And
has,
make your own motion.
the motion has not been seconded yet. If you want to change or add to your motion, you can, since it hasn't been seconded.
Yes, and I don't want to change my motion. I want it in subsection 1, so I don't want to change it. So it requires now a second or a lack thereof, and someone else can make a motion for it to go into subsection 2 if they so desire.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. That's where I was going next. So it's been moved. Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second it. I think we spent enough time on this. We can always modify it going forward. And just for the, well, I'm just going to second,
Okay.
and I'll have a quick conversation after.
Okay.
Go ahead right now, sir.
So Green Valley Ranch South is a separate HOA/Metro district. They in fact have a 4x8. They have 2 4x8 plywood sheets that are essentially a welcoming to the public to their district. And that is where they post theirs. It's approximately at Green Valley Ranch Boulevard, and let's see, it's beyond all of the commercial area. And then there's another one on the south side of theirs. So in the future, we can find a location that's central or that has sufficient traffic, and we can put up a board of our own. But for now, King Supers is just fine.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed?
No,
I'll vote no because I want it to be in 2. So
Okay. What I will do is, it did pass 4-1. What I'll do is amend the wording, and I will send this via DocuSign to Mr. Scheibels and Ms. Barclay for signatures. And if you choose to put it back on the agenda at a later time, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll deal with it with the annual administrative resolution.
okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Alyssa, are you with us still?
Yes, I am.
Outstanding. So next is financial items. And do you want me to just drive on the screen, or do you want to drive?
Yeah, you can drive. So I'll start. Yep. So we did provide our February financials in the packet. So on a high level, they're pretty much status quo. Just wanted to point out 2 items to the board. So the first one being, yep, on this balance sheet, you guys can see there's in your assets and accounts receivable line in your debt service fund. That's not normally there. This is property tax revenue that should have gone to the UMB funds. And UMB just mistakenly applied them to the wrong fund. They have fixed that in March. So you'll see those in your UMB funds. Just wanted to clarify that we do have that revenue. It'll be fixed next month. Sorry. And then our only other comment, if you want to go to our next page, the general fund. This applies to all of the fund pages. We did recently change our accounting software, and our variance column is different than our older financials. And from the audit, it is now being calculated as annual budget less your actual numbers. So it used to be for revenue, it would be actual numbers minus your budget. So it would show how you're under your revenue so far, but it is changed. So we wanted to just make the board aware of that. I know the committee pointed it out, just wanted to make sure everyone's okay with that. Otherwise, if there's no specific questions, I think everything's pretty much, as I said, status quo.
Alyssa, I do have a question. This is Lewis. Further down in the report, there's a graphic that shows the spending by TCMD. It's a pie chart in a brown field. If we can get to that, that's the one right there. It identifies Ebert Metro District service revenue to town center, and the blue pie, the biggest piece, it's kind of small. Is that 28 million? Is that what it says?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, 28,305,000. So can you identify the period of time that spending covers? Is it from inception?
I believe so. I can go back and double check. So this table has been here on your statement of cash position for even before I was on the account. So yes,
Right.
I believe it's just tracking the revenue to town center, I believe from inception, your service
Okay.
revenue. I can double
And the
check.
reason that I make that point is we're talking about making an amendment to the 2018 service agreement amendment. And that service amendment had an upper limit of some 16 million the town center was going to be spending over the period of time involved. And we're going to ask for that to be increased. And I didn't want the public to get confused with this 28 million. This 28 million precedes the 2018 amendment to the IGA. And so the things that we'll be talking about later in the meeting, this would be a distraction to that. So I just wanted to clarify what that number was.
Good point. Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions on the financials for Alyssa?
I'd just like to say thank you to Alyssa and her firm for getting us February financial statements in the month of March. That's a nice improvement, and I look forward to this in the future.
Of course.
And Alyssa, I don't know if you heard that, but we may need to, I know you sent the draft audit over to me, but we're probably going to have a minor budget amendment because I think there's going to be some election
Yeah.
from 2023 that didn't show up in the final numbers from December that you had sent us.
Yeah, I did note that. So once we get those invoices, we'll still have time. I mean, the audit is in the works, so we'll still have time to go back and update that. And
Okay.
we'll need to file the amendment, of course, before filing the audit, but it looks like if we can get that done at your next meeting in June, we should be fine, get it filed on time by July.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I believe we'll vote on accepting financials. Is that correct?
We've done that in the past, yes.
So I'm looking for a motion and a second to accept the February 29th, 2024 financial report.
I'll move that we accept the report.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second,
Thank you very much. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, is there anyone opposed? Thank you. Next is the checklist.
Yep, our next item is your invoices processed and paid since the last meeting. So that's going to be your first section there, your payments, or what has actually been paid since your last meeting. And then our second section is the current payables, so they haven't been paid yet. And these are all approved by Bruce.
So if there are no questions, need a motion to ratify the payables in the amount of $30,294.85 and to approve payables in the amount of $14,791.44.
So moved.
second,
And
Thank
then
you.
for discussion, these are the totals that I wanted reported in the minutes, the payment totals and the approval totals. You don't need the details. It's just so that you can distinguish from one board meeting to the next, the amount of money that's being paid and or approved.
Yes, sir. It will be added, and that's why I vocalized it so it's on the recording.
Thank you so much.
You betcha. Is there any other comment? Hearing none, is there anyone opposed? Thank you very much. Thanks, Alyssa.
Thanks.
thank you, Alyssa.
Thank you so much.
So next item is the covenant control and restriction status report. That was a part of your board packet. I'm not going to put that up on the screen because some of that information is privileged, but it is part of your board packet. It's just there for if you want to discuss anything right now. If you do want to discuss anything, I would just caution that you not use addresses or names. I
It
did
goes
ask April.
on and on and on.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chavez, what?
I said it goes on and on and on. And
Yes, it's very long. I did invite April to the meeting tonight. She had another meeting to be at, so she's not with us.
and some of it is really hard to understand where they are in some of the process, but frankly, I don't, until we're doing operational, I really don't know what we can do with these reports.
Would you like to still continue to see them at each meeting until any change is made?
I would, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I would, I just, some of them I don't know where it does. I mean, it'd be nice to get a summary of, there's, literally what, 30 pages of these things, and I don't know, are any in litigation, are any in, it'd be nice to get a summary that, we sent out 20 initial notices and that resulted in 10, fines and this is without somebody to explain what one of these might mean. It's really hard to see, hard to, I guess, interpret is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's not informative.
It's just, it burns up a lot of paper. That's a good thing we don't print it. Yeah.
Right.
I'll have discussions with April and ask, and we'll see what we can do to provide a better or a summary of that report so it's more usable for you.
Right.
Thank you.
Sure. Next is the district work order status report, and Brittany is with us. Brittany, are you still there? No, looks like she's gone. I don't see her. So it is part of your board packet, and I'll share my screen again. Sorry. So this was the email that we received from Jerry, just saying that it's been a slow first quarter. There's 5 work orders generated, 1 outstanding and 4 closed out. He included the chart, which shows the categories of the issues. And there's only 1 item that's outstanding. Sorry, that's the way the report printed out or came out. and
That's
it's a
okay.
fence issue.
Yeah. Is there anyone either on the board or in the audience that can clarify what areas these work orders cover? I'm assuming it's the area that's managed by Town Center. Is that correct?
I believe so, but I'm not sure.
And I'm sorry, I can't speak to that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah. Because I think part of the issue is in the first quarter, there was a lot of snow. So things were covered up and people probably weren't out there engaging with the areas very much. So that's probably why there weren't so many reports. But I'll save it for the future.
Okay. Next item is statutory compliance to special district compliance calendar. We're in line with everything. The only thing pending right now is your audit, and you've received a draft copy of that. As Lisa said, they'll continue to work through that and add any late items such as the election costs for 2023. And we plan to present that for your review and consideration at the next meeting. Any questions about that?
I'm good.
All right. Next is to consider approval of a resolution related to potential current litigation involving a limited amendment to the 2018 IGA. That was a part of your board packet.
Yep.
And so just so the board knows, we did resend this out to everybody because Mr. Ayla had provided the Ebert resolution, and it's now attached to the Town Center resolution. And so, Bruce, I don't know if you or Evan want to discuss this.
Yeah, I want to, first of all, I want to move that we approve both resolutions with the Ebert resolution on top of the Town Center resolution. And the Town Center resolution was already approved by the Town Center board at their meeting on March 7th.
Bruce, just a point of clarification. I mean, the resolution, the Ebert resolution, the first page, first 2 pages, is the formal way that the Ebert board approves entering into this limited amendment. The attachment is the limited amendment. It's not a resolution by Town Center. It is a draft amendment. That
okay. I apologize. Okay.
Which would be signed by Ebert if you approve going into this amended agreement and passing the resolution.
Okay, so the motion should be approving the resolution.
Right, and then that, in the language of the resolution, says that the board is approving entering into this limited amendment as is attached to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I move that we approve the resolution, that we approve the resolution approving the limited amendment to the second amended and restated district facilities construction funding and service agreement.
Right.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I will second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any comments?
Yes, I have a comment. I'd
Yes,
like to read it. So I said, I motion to amend the proposed resolution as follows. Delete and replace the text of section 3 in the last paragraph with the following to allow, quote, for the Ebert Board of Directors to determine the purposes for which said fund shall be applied, to include the amounts allocated for such purposes. The privilege of this section 3 shall manifest itself in TCMD's 2025 general fund budget, the approval of which shall be subject to the majority consent of the Ebert Metropolitan District Board, unquote. It should be an expressed intent of this resolution to ensure that Ebert has a direct say in the discretion as to where, how and how much of this one-time extension / increase in the maximum service level shall be applied and allocated, which is approximately $2.6 million. Ebert must have a direct and unmistakable say in where and how those funds are spent. That's it.
And Cynthia, just to clarify, that would be under the now therefore? Is that where you want to add that wording?
No, I think, well, Cynthia, you speak for yourself, but it sounds to me like you're wanting to amend the actual limited amendment agreement that Town Center has drafted in Article 3 to
Right.
say that Ebert must approve of any expenditures of this extra money.
Correct.
So what it would be then is the way it would play out on paper is we can approve that kind of concept tonight. I would amend this resolution or just change or revise it so that it says that Ebert approves of the limited amendment if it contains that language. And then that's what would be sent back to Town Centers to say Ebert approved it, but only with the addition of this additional paragraph.
Are we at a point of discussion yet?
Yes, sir.
So one of the things that occurs to me is raising the maximum service amount to 19.5 million. The sole purpose of that is to allow Town Center to continue to operate through a future period, doing what they're currently doing. If Ebert sticks its nose into their business on a daily basis and follows the amendment that Cynthia is proposing, we're going to put ourselves in a position of having to approve everything they do. And I don't think we should be in that business.
And I agree with that.
This is not a unique funding amount. It's not like it's 2.6 million that they're getting to just play with. This money has to be applied to their budget, which is what we've always agreed to year by year, is that they put together their budget. We have conversations about what's appropriate and they make the decision, but they are also responsible for running the district, that is doing the maintenance of the common areas. And I don't think we, as Ebert, should be engaged in that with them.
Well, why did we have to go to litigation then, if they're so responsible?
Well,
So I disagree that we're trying to get this coordinated so they're responsible like they should have been, and we wouldn't be in this litigation at all. So I don't know how you create such an environment that the money that the residents have proposed to them and their budget to make sure that now it is used in a positive way, that we have a say in that. You can combine some of their, you're going to have don't you have a group that you are going to review things and take care of your issue meetings and all that? Well, I just feel we shouldn't have been in litigation, period. If you can trust town to go ahead forward and do exactly what they say they're going to do, they don't even follow their own resolutions and IGA. So how you can make that happen, I don't know. Maybe you have some idea of making that work. I don't see it. They haven't proven it. We wouldn't be in this mess that we're in. We wouldn't have wasted legal defense to have to prove a point that they should have already done what they claim they already wrote that they were going to provide for the Ebert district.
So
I hear what you're saying, Cynthia. The one thing that we can't get into too much detail, but it has been mentioned earlier in the meeting, is this memorandum of understanding. And it does go a long way answering those questions that you have in terms of how do we hold them accountable. But I'm not at liberty at this point to disclose any details on the memorandum until it's agreed to by both sides. And I think that's all I can say.
I will tell you that part of the going forward, that this change would, first of all, it would give TCMD all of 2024 and all of 2025 to work on fixing the fencing and landscaping issues. Plus, during the 225 budget planning process, TCMD and Ebert will collaborate fully in allocating funds from the budgeted service amount. So we will be, they've committed to Ebert being fully involved in their budgeting process, much more so than in the past. I don't agree with the amendment that you just that you want to put into this, in part because the resolution that they passed doesn't include that, and that's going to be I think problematic in terms of getting the stay in place and getting us focusing on moving forward with cleaning up the district. I'm convinced that as part of the budgeting process and part of reinstituting the collaboration meetings and as part of the process of having regular meetings with the management, with Ebert's involvement, with Timberline, that we will have much more oversight than we've ever had in the past, and that we can focus on making sure that the extra 2.6 million, as you're pointing out, won't be just spent willy-nilly. I think that we will be fully involved in their budget process in a way that will have us involved, so that we will have oversight in a way that hasn't been done in the past. So I'm not in favor of the amendment you want to add to the limited amendment.
If I could one more time go at this, Bruce, the thing that's been referred to earlier in the meeting, that we are putting a stay on the litigation, and that was through the advice and counsel of our attorneys, because that is the threat, if you will, or that is the coercion. That is the coercion that keeps them being cooperative. The idea that we're not abandoning the lawsuit, we're staying it, so that if 6 months down the road they've done nothing, then we have a reason to reopen the litigation. And we wouldn't want to do that, and neither do they, because we both agree it's a waste of money. Sorry about that, Evan, but we don't want to spend our money that way. Let's put it that way.
You're absolutely right. And that is the difference now, is there is this litigation sitting out there. We want to put it on stay, and we want to not do any more with it if they cooperate and come through like we hope they do. And if they don't, the litigation can come back to life and attempt to hold their feet to the fire that way. So that is the difference now over what it has been historically.
I have a question. Does this amendment supersede the memorandum of understanding, or does the memorandum of understanding supersede the amendment? Because the memorandum of understanding, I'm not going to say what's in here, but there is no set amount. It's got the minimum amount of the 16.9 million, but there is no top amount.
No, it just says to an amount sufficient to fund the budget for all of 2025. And the 19.5 is the amount that has been determined would be the amount that will be sufficient to fund the full budget in 2025.
I kind of like the memorandum of understanding verbiage and not giving them carte blanche.
Right.
Well, the memorandum of understanding is in the form of a settlement agreement to the litigation. It's not a final settlement agreement, but it's the terms under which we will proceed during the stay. And so it has a lot of force, but a formality to getting there is to formally, because this board has the power to appropriate monies and to to spend it. And that's what you're doing in this limited amendment, is you're giving your stamp of approval to increase the funding to achieve what is being agreed to in the MOU.
If I could just
I
chime
have-
in once more right there, because you used the term increase the funding. And I want to reiterate what Bruce said earlier in the meeting. This does not increase taxes. It just increases the timeline under which Town Center will be doing the maintenance of the district. There'll be a day in the future when the Town Center board is not made up of any Oakwood employees and it's run by the community. And so this statutory number is just to allow whoever's running the place to have sufficient funds to run the place. It's not an increase in taxes.
So, Louis, I understand what you just said, and maybe these don't go together, but we just voted down, nearly $300,000. And now we're asking for this small increase. Should we come back later, which is what I think is going to happen, and we will have a discussion about some amount of money that will be giving to them, how does that impact their budget? I mean, that would be $300,000 to a $19 million budget, but what is that, like a 3 million or so roughly increase that we're asking for? I mean, I know that's, a small percentage of it, but does that play into it in any way?
So let me just clarify one subject matter. It's the statutory limitation that Town Center is under when they agreed to run the district, when they agreed to manage the affairs of the district. So that 19.5 that we're increasing to, that's not per annum. It's a grand total since 2018 when it was amended.
Got it.
That's why during the
Okay.
financial report, that little chart that they had in there, I didn't want that confusion. They've spent $28 million from day one on this and maintaining the district. But since the last amendment in 2018, that number going forward was set at 16.7. And now when we look at the future, that's not going to get us to the finish line when Oakwood's gone and we're running the place ourselves.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification.
Okay.
Yeah, and
And-
Khadija, just so you know, if you look back on the February financial statement, there's a chart in the middle of it. The current maximum service amount is $16,947,741.
That's the
At
one,
the
right?
end of December 2023, the balance was $4,983,333. And then this year, there was going to be services outlay of $2,915,691. And so the balance at the end of December of this year is $2,067,642. And that's not enough to fund Town Center's operational services through the entirety of 2025. And that's why, in order to get through the entirety of the litigation and the entirety of all the transition services we're talking about, transitioning from Town Center to Ebert, taking over some of these, taking care of the common areas that Town Center's been doing all these years. That's why this maximum service amount number is being increased. We're trying to increase it to this 19.5 number from the 16.9 number, so that we can fully fund the operational number for Town Center through the end of 2025. But again, there's not going to be that same 17 mil number will be transferred over to them. That's been transferred over to them since 2018. There won't be any tax increase. It's just that same number. It's just to be able to fully fund the operational, and we'll be much more involved in Town Center's budget process this year going into 2025 than we ever have been in the past, because of the settlement process that we've been working on for the last 3 months with the members of the town center board in their litigation committee, Bill and Joe.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. I understood a lot of that. I wanted to stitch together those two pieces that it wasn't making sense to me. I appreciate that.
So I just have one comment, Bruce. So the reason that town couldn't do the repairs that they were supposed to do and to keep up the district was because they didn't have enough money. So now they're going to get the increase so they can repair and replace and do all the things that they were supposed to do. But now they've given you the promise that they're going to take care of it all without any oversight. That's where you are with this, correct?
No, I think that's too simplistic. I think that there were a whole bunch of other problems in the past, not money. I think they've always had enough money. I think that there's been other issues that,
And where is it? If it wasn't allocated to where it should have been, where is it now? It should be in a surplus fund somewhere.
that I don't know. I think there are other issues that were involved, you know,
Okay.
predating my involvement and predating me living here.
Any other discussion? There's an amendment to the motion on the floor. So if there's
Was the
no,
amendment seconded?
I'm looking right now.
I don't believe it has been
No, so you're
seconded.
correct. It has not. I apologize. So Cynthia did move to amend section 3. Is there a second for that? Hearing none, that dies for a failure of a second.
I'm gonna second that
Oh.
after consideration.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. And this is up to the amendment to amend section 3.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
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 It fails with 3 voting no, 2 voting yes. Then we move to the original motion, and it was to approve the resolution as presented. Motion was made by Bruce, seconded by Lewis. Is there any discussion, further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say no.
I'm gonna abstain.
I've got 2 votes, yes, and 1 abstention. There's 2
Lewis,
directors.
Lewis, did you vote?
Did we lose Lewis?
Yeah, I heard a note. It sounded like he may have been bounced off. And my internet is a little wiggly right now, so I'm off camera.
Sure. So let me do this. I'm going to ask for those in favor. Bruce, in favor or opposed?
In favor.
Cynthia, in favor or opposed?
Oppose.
Lewis, still off. Leslie, in favor or opposed?
I have to pick one, huh?
Or if you want to abstain,
I'm gonna oppose.
okay? And Ms. Haynes?
Oppose. I'm sorry, I'm in favor. Sorry.
Oh, that's 2 yes and 2 no, and we lost Lewis. So the motion fails unless we can get Lewis back on. I can try to give him a call if you want. Bear with me, I'm going to give him a call.
He just texted me his battery died. He's trying to get back on.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Louis. What I can do is I'll just put you on speakerphone and three-way you in since your battery died. Is that all right?
Just about to log back in.
Oh.
I'll go ahead and do that.
Okay, sure.
I went back to power, so I should. And I'm connecting now. There it comes.
There we are.
Great, thanks so much.
Yes, sir. Okay, he's coming back on right now.
Sorry about that.
No worries. So Louis, where we left off is we were voting on the original motion to approve the resolution as presented.
Correct.
Are you in favor or opposed?
I'm in favor.
You're in favor. So the motion passes 3-2. Thank you very much.
Sorry for the drama.
Could have been a restroom break. See that?
I was thinking about that as I ran for the power cord, but I thought, no, they're waiting. I better do this.
So the next item is item 16. It's for the executive session.
Yes.
And Bruce, I don't know, do you want to make the motion to go into executive session? Because it has to be read into the record.
Yeah, I'll make the motion. I move that we go into executive session pursuant to CRS section 24-6-402, paren 4, close paren B, close paren, for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions, requested legal analysis from district legal counsel related to the formation of new districts within the boundaries of an existing district and status of ongoing litigation with Town Center Metro District, including seeking a stay of the litigation from the court and pursuant to CRS section 24-6-402, paren 4, close paren E, close paren, small e, for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters subject to ongoing negotiations, developing strategy for such negotiations, and instructing negotiators regarding enforcement of covenants and improvements to meet the requirements of covenants with respect to public properties contained within the district.
Is there a second?
So moved or seconded, yes, sorry.
Thank you very much. Okay, so members of the public, what I'm going to do is set up a side room and I'm going to place you into that side room. First, I'm going to stop recording. So,
we've come out of executive session and we're just going to have one motion based on discussions within the executive session, because as folks know, you can't make any decisions while you're in executive session. And so I'm going to make a motion that we direct that the board directs Evan Eller and the rest of our legal team to work cooperatively with counsel for Town Center to seek a stay of the litigation with again in cooperation with TCMD's counsel, using the existing memorandum of understanding as a basis for the stay. The existing memorandum of understanding will probably have to be spruced up a little bit with an introductory paragraph and probably some signature lines, but hopefully that can be taken care of within the next few weeks, to stay the litigation so we can move on with resolving the litigation in that way.
Is there a second?
I second.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, is anyone
Is that-
opposed?
Is that for public discussion?
No, sir, it's the board. Bruce, did you want to open it for public discussion?
Well, I just wanted to say, once we have the MOU approved by both TCMD and Ebert, at least Ebert will post the MOU on its website. I can't speak for TCMD.
Did you want to open it for public comment before you vote?
Very short.
Mr. Klink?
I'm not sure what the motion was. It was rather long and rambling, and I'm not sure what exact.
Basically,
All that was the motion, or what, if something more concise?
the board was the motion is to direct legal counsel to seek a stay of the litigation in cooperation with Town Center's legal counsel. That's essentially the motion.
Thank you. That's much more concise and understandable.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? Carries unanimous. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other business items to discuss? Hearing none, we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? Evan's opposed. I don't know. All right, we'll close at 10:10. Thank you, everybody, and have a great night.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Night.
Thank you.